and very buttoned up. A quick way, fine, easy, out. I was having nightmares towards the end. 10 grams went to 50, and that went to 100. 100 went to 500, and then it started being kilos. MDMA, ketamine, acid, and mushrooms, and 2CB. These are amazing people that have been told that they can't do certain things. Then I went into university. Yes, there's a clown university. Yeah, they're one red nose short of a good show, aren't they? You can still be a shiny, sparkly person and not have a disorder. Just because you're short doesn't mean you have dwarfism.
Hi, folks. On today's podcast, I'm joined by Maria Stavrou, a dancer, a circus performer, and a life coach. Is that pretty much everything?
It is, yeah, pretty much.
How do those things fit together for you?
Oh, very differently. Certainly being a circus performer and also a life coach or a therapist, it's so polarizing, especially when it comes to marketing online. One is this sexy circus life, and the other is this, you know, let's help each other, let's look at mental health and very buttoned up side. So they're a little bit clashing. It's very difficult to market under one platform, so I've spread it across two. But they're incredibly different lifestyles that I've encompassed under one roof, for sure.
Yeah, I've noticed that with your Instagram, we kind of go from one thing to another, and it's trying to work out what your brand is. But you kind of started out with the circus work.
Yes, I did. Yeah. So,
Okay.
crikey, 16 years ago with the circus, well, with the dancing, and
Really?
then, yeah, 13 years ago with the circus.
Really?
Mhm.
Okay. And what made you, it's kind of a bit of a trope, isn't it? Run away to the circus.
Such a trope. Well, I started as a dancer, and even though the work to be a dancer is incredible, like it's a hard slog, it's very physically taxing to be a dancer. There's a lot of choreography and strictness within your movement. It's still not financially rewarded to the degree of how much effort and practice is put into becoming one. So what I saw in the industry I was in is that circus reaped bigger financial rewards. There was more scope for travel. There was more scope for performance at different levels within the industry. So I thought, can I get involved with this? Okay, let's see if I can do it. And I started with an agency, and then I went into university. Yes, there's a clown university. And I went into uni to go and learn how to do a plethora of different circus performances, and I haven't looked back since. I loved it, and I've loved it ever since. It's such a passion.
Fantastic. I feel like there's a lot of people that went to Clown University. I think we've got a parliament full of them for
Oh,
starters.
yeah, they're one red nose short of a good show, aren't they?
Before that, let's just go back to the beginnings. Before that, you had some issues with the law.
I did.
Do you want to tell us about that?
Yes, absolutely. So as I said a second ago, it wasn't really financially beneficial being a dancer.
Mm,
There wasn't really many great returns on that investment. And at that point in my life, I was about 18, trying to make my way, performing, not really earning enough, struggling, going from jobs that I didn't really like, and the crowd that I'd found myself in. it was normal for everyone to get high on a weekend and party really hard with a variety of different drugs. And you know, do you remember methadone, MCAT?
I've heard of it.
Oh, it's 2009 is when that sort of like 2008, 2009 was when that
Right,
boom
yeah.
sort of came along. And suffice it to say, someone along the line said, this stuff's legal. If you buy it, it's a legal high. You can sell it on. You can earn a bit more money. Da 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 da. And I take ownership for it because it was me that was like, yeah, yeah, let's go for it. I can see that's got a little bit more of a return than what I'm doing at the moment and can probably pay my rent. So I bought the first time that I bought online was like 10 grams,
Mhm.
nothing, comparatively. And that everything that I bought, the whole 10 grams just went. One weekend was nothing. And I was buying it for about £3 on the gram, and you could sell it for about 10 to 30.
Right.
So
Mhm.
just ridiculous. So then I saw how quickly that went, and it it's one of those moments where you turn around and before you know it, you're in really deep. That 10 grams went to 50, and that went to 100. That 100 went to 500, and then it started being kilos. And it before I knew it, I was selling not only that, but I was selling MDMA, and I was selling ketamine and acid and mushrooms and 2CB, everything that you would find at a psychedelic festival. That's what had landed in my world as something to sell. And Ted, when I say to you, I wanted out, I was having nightmares towards the end, like dreams consistently about getting caught, about not being able to get out, about being chased. One was quite substantial where I had a really vivid dream, and it was like 2 weeks before I actually did get caught. I had this really vivid dream, and it was about getting caught by the police, and then finally getting taken to court, and then getting bailed out by my ex-partner, and but eventually ending up in prison.
Mhm.
I went and I spoke to one of my friends about this, and she was like, "Maria, I just been paranoid. You just worried. Don't worry. Keep at it." I didn't want to keep at it. I wanted out. I wanted a way out. And weirdly, it was 2 weeks after that that at my door everything happened as in that order. I got caught, taken to court. My bail was paid for by my ex, but subsequently, a few months later, regardless of that, I went to prison, and quite rightfully so. I was guilty of sin, and I held my hands up from the start. I was like, "Yep, it was me. Thank God." I was
W
so grateful.
was this with a group of people, or was this your own doing? Was this your own enterprise?
It was one of these moments where people were seeing how much was being made and they wanted to get involved, but I also knew fucking dangerous. I didn't want to be like, yeah, guys, come on in and get involved when even I was struggling to
Mm.
want to be involved in the first place. But it was the only thing at that point that was paying my rent. Um, I dropped out of school, so I didn't have GCSEs, and I was struggling to keep a job as well because I was going from job to job, but wasn't doing amazingly. I was doing great in the job, but I just lost interest in them. And I've since found out that's quite a typical ADHD thing, going from job to job to job. But I was undiagnosed and unregulated and out in the world on my own. So I was just like, no, I don't want to do these things. There's this easy route that I'm going to take. Even though I didn't want it, ultimately I knew better, but I couldn't action better. That
Yeah.
was the difference.
When you say, it was dangerous, there's
Yeah.
the danger of getting caught. Were there any other dangers involved?
Absolutely. You know, there was the fact that number one, like health dangers. I was very, very, very thin. I was underfed a lot just because, you know, there was all these products that I had that meant that you didn't want to eat, and I'd, you know, stay up for days on end. There was one point that I can recall being awake for 6 days with a 4 hour sleep in between. Um, and in that time period, you know, I was hallucinating through lack of sleep. And um, it's just when you're just not looking after yourself very well, it's affecting your mental health, it's affecting your food. Um, there was other risks as well, you know, people coming around to your house and finding your staff getting raided.
Hmm.
There was only ever one occasion of that because as bad as things were, as terrible of a situation as it was, I was really lucky that the people that were around me, as much as they weren't actively trying to stop what I was doing, um, as much, they were still like, "Here, have some food, make sure you go to bed." They were trying their best to make the best out of it, 'cause, yeah, I think, towards the end of it, everyone could sort of see, actually, this is really messing with me. And I did have people that did care, not to the degree of like, "Right, you, let's get you out of here," but care to the degree of, "She's gonna do it. Let's make sure she's fed."
Yeah.
Uh,
But so the intervention came from the police, really?
yeah,
How
and
did that happen? Was it a knock at the door,
knock at the door, I wasn't
literally?
in. Yeah,
Right.
they came to the door. I wasn't home at the time. I was on my way to a photo shoot. And in why that's important is because it was a head to toe body painted shoot. So I didn't have any makeup, didn't have any hair made. And so my mugshot, I really do look as bad as it could look. The hair was
Mm.
everywhere, the face was like tired. But yeah, I mean they came and they banged on the door. My housemate was in, and I was yeah, I don't know if you know Bristol at all.
Not too bad.
Not too well. So there's this area, it's called the Bear Pit. It's kind of like this underpass which takes you from one key location to another. I was
Mhm.
in the middle of this underpass and I take the phone call. It's an unknown number, and it's somebody shouting down the phone, "We're in your house. Come back here now." Rah, 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 rah. And I'm just like, what is going on? And it had been a few weeks prior that my friend had said people were going dressed as police officers to known drug dealers' houses, raiding their stuff,
Oh,
leaving. There's nothing you can do. Who are you going to call? The police? No, you cannot. So you know, I thought for a second there, oh my god, this thing has finally happened to me. There's people pretending to be police officers. They're in my house because me being naive as I was, and I still have a little bit of a pink rose tinted effect on the world to even today, but I thought, "Oh my gosh, the police would never shout like that." So it's got to be gangs. So they're shouting down the phone, "Come back to the house. We're in your house." Da da da. Because I thought it might have been a gang, I hung up. Straight away, I got on the phone to one of my closest friends and I rang him up and I was like, "There might be a gang in my house. Uh, I'm petrified. I need you here. I need help because I'm going to go back now. And if it is, I need your help." And so I start walking back up towards the house and I start, you know, making peace with the reality of this. And there was so much of my body and my mind just going, "Thank fuck, thank fuck. I can breathe. I can take a rest." Oh my gosh. And it was just coming to peace with the fact that it was over. over the rat race that I was in, the fact that, you know, week in and week out, I had to sell a certain amount in order to pay back the person, in order to keep up with the next week's stuff, and to make sure everyone else is happy, and to deliver on the weekends to make sure that everyone else is all right and having their party and everything. And it was just like, it was and I was 20. It was so
Mm.
much in my head that I just, it was like, oh, thank gosh, oh, I can get out. So I'm walking back home, and I'm walking up to Stokes Croft, which is the area that I used to live in, Bristol. And as I'm walking up and through, there's an area where I can turn the corner and it looks into my house. You can see the door, you can see the thing. And as I turn this corner, I think it was like 3 riot vans, a number of police cars. They were lined across the street.
Yeah.
It it became increasingly obvious. You can't
Increasingly
avoid it.
obvious that if it was a gang pretending to be police, then they've really committed to it, haven't they?
Really committed to it. It was unavoidably obvious at that point. And I was like, as I'm turning around and I'm seeing all these things, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
it's definitely what it is. I'm seeing my friend walking down the road from up there, and I'm like looking at him like, nope, run, just get out of here, just go, and get back into the house. Um, and as I'm walking up the stairs, it's just kind of like, just make sure you do the right thing. And the right thing for me was making sure that my housemate wasn't, uh, impacted in any way. He wasn't sort of lumped in with me. He wasn't seen as somebody that was involved in any such way. So they read you your rights and they say, "Have you got anything you want to say?" And I was just like, "He's not involved. He is not involved. This was me. This was all me." From the get go, just pleaded guilty because I was like, "This is what I needed."
Mm.
I saw it as something that I needed, not something that I was trying to avoid in any way.
Mm.
So I think that was kind of the main key difference, which really stopped me from ever going back to that world. Is that I never wanted to stay in it as much as it can grab you, and I know I painfully know how stuck people can feel if they're in that world, because you owe a certain amount of people are counting on you for other things, and there's a certain financial benefit to being in it, and there's excitement to being in it. So it can be addictive, just the process of it financially, and dopamine excitement.
Mm.
And I get that, but nothing is worth it in the end. You never feel like a complete person, which I never wanted to be like that. I wanted to be proud of what I was doing,
Mm.
and I couldn't be proud of that.
Mm. A lot of people probably experience something very similar with that, where people get, without, through no fault of their own, find themselves getting into just ordinary debt. That sometimes, if that gets out of hand, they perhaps don't have anybody to turn to, and they get deeper and deeper into it, and everything just becomes so much more difficult, and it needs I I hesitate to say a a rock bottom, but sometimes it does take a rock bottom for people to be able to pick themselves up and kind of almost count their blessings, or perhaps see that actually, what's most important here, not dead. Nothing absolutely terrible is going to happen.
Mm.
And now it's out in the open. Like I say, it could be something like that with the police involved, but it could be something like a simple case of debt or addiction or something that could be once outed to their family and friends, they find that they actually get support.
Yeah, I can't tell you how important it was having the network I had. I most likely wouldn't be here for sure. Um, and this is the thing, they always say like prison really shows you who your friends are. I never went a day without a letter. And when I came out the other side, like I said to you, the bad position that I was in, everyone was still trying to look after me. So the people that I had around me, I can't I thank them so much because even though it was a shit situation I was in, and it was whilst they were around me, it wasn't because of them, it's because of my own actions.
Yeah.
And when I came out the other end, I was lucky to have a place to go and stay, have a place to just settle and be okay for a few months and to recalibrate myself and to get myself sorted. Um, and I think we spoke about this off air, but one of the things that was really important to me was just making a list. And when I got put into jail that night that I was taken away, the first thing that I did is I was like, "Can I take a pen and a paper? And I've got this home learning course in counseling I want to bring in. Can I bring that in as well?" And they were like, "Yeah, sure. You're going to be there for a while, so no worries." So the first thing I did when I got in there is I just wrote this list, and I was like, "Right, what do I really want? What take away the drug dealing? What do I actually want to do?" I I was only dealing because I couldn't earn enough through working with dancing, and that's what I wanted to do. And I wasn't earning enough with dancing, and I wanted to go into circus. So I was like, "All right, so let's do this properly." So I wrote down on my list, go to a circus university, start up an agency, travel the world. One of the things I wrote down as well was work at Glastonbury, which I did, which I was really happy about. And also, not only that, but work in psychology as well. Start working in mental health. But I put that down as something a 30-year-old plus thing. So I was like, write down in your 20s, do circus, do performing, travel the world, have fun in your 20s, in your 30s, go into mental health, start helping people out, work forward from there, from that point onwards. And and to this day, Ted, I have stuck to that list. It's been my sort of North Star throughout a lot of changing inconsistencies in my own personal life, but my professional life has had its goals for
I
sure.
I don't imagine there's many people who, end up in the cells, and that's the list that they write, but, uh, so
For sure,
so
yeah.
what kind of sentence did you end up with? Did you walk away with a community sentence, or you went
No,
away?
went away. It was a 23-month sentence.
Right.
Yeah, so
That's
served half of that.
yeah, that's a
Mhm.
long time.
Yeah, it was a long time, but, I was grateful, and I think that's what got me through it, is I was grateful because, um, before getting into drug dealing, I'd recently gotten out of foster care, and I didn't have the support that other people had had of, like, I can go back home, go to mum or dad or something like that. It was very much do or die. You need to make it. You need to scrabble for this life, and that's kind of what life has shown me from a even younger age than that, is you need to fight to survive. And to be honest with you, actually going to prison, and this might sound a bit sad, but it's true. It felt like a break, to be fair. And
Mhm.
I felt grateful for the break.
So nearly 12 months to recalibrate, put together a
Yeah.
plan, and to go from there, really.
Hit the ground
Ah,
running. And one of the first things that I did was go to the Prince's Trust and learn how to build a business because I had no idea. But I knew I wanted it. And I was like, right, what are the things that I can do? And what are the things to my disposal at that, especially at that age bracket? You've got a lot more things that people want to help you out with as well. Because there's like um, youth schemes and certificates that you can be involved with. Certainly, the Princess Trust was one of them, and it teaches you how to build a business from scratch. So I went in and did a course with them. And then I knew I wanted to have an agency in circus, but I didn't understand the industry well enough. So I went to that circus university so I could know how long can I book an aerialist out for? How hard is it to create a cabaret show? How many different acts do I need in order to create a full 360 peripheral? Like, what do I need in order to be able to do all these things as an agent? Because I knew I didn't just want to perform, I wanna run the show as well. That's what I wanna do, which is I'm still doing now. I'm a creative director for a number of different shows across London, and I love it. It's one of the best part of my job is getting to create all day. But for me, I think it was so important just to have that driving force. Know exactly, okay, well, I know I need to do this in my 20s and this in my 30s, and have that specific goal so that if I did feel lost or if I did feel like anyway inclined to go back to that world, I would have that to fall back on. No, this isn't part of your goal. You're doing this now. This is it.
Mhm.
Mm.
So, circus skills.
Mm.
My little boy would be very disappointed if I didn't ask you about this because he's a bit fascinated with the concept of fire eating. How does that work? How does it work?
Well, it's magic. You can let him know. um, it's extinguishing and deoxygenating a flame. So just the same as if you put a cup over a candle, that's exactly it. You close your mouth over the flame, and that's
It doesn't it burn you? Doesn't it is it uncomfortable?
it can if you're a show off and you keep it in your mouth too long, which I
Okay.
have definitely been known to do because I like to elongate and prolong the shock factor of fire eating because I think it's spectacular. If you do it and you do it with theater, you can do it really well. So, but yes, I mean, if you're doing it in a quick way, fine, easy out. It's not going to be a lit flame for very long. You've got saliva around your mouth, and it'll go out pretty quickly and easily.
Okay.
But maybe not with your beard, Ted. I'm sorry.
No, that would not be
Not for you, dear.
no, no. Okay. Good spot there. Yeah. No, I don't think I'll try that. So how many burns and injuries related to fire sticks and fire breathing have you managed to sustain?
Nothing permanent. Singed hair. That's for sure. I've singed the hair on my arms because I do body burning as well, and singed the hair on my legs. But yeah, other than that, there's nothing permanent. There's a couple of scratches here and there, but nothing worse than a rock climber would have. That's for sure.
So tell me, how did you how did you go from the circus skills into the counselling? Because I understand, I mean, that's very different. Now you've enlisted some help, including things like the Prince's Trust to learn how to build a business, and you're doing that, and you're doing your performance work, you're doing your agency work, and then you've moved a little bit later on into counselling. How did you manage to do that, and what was the motivation for that?
So how I managed to do that is learning through lockdown some NLP skills was the first thing that I did outside of the things that I learned when I was in my early 20s, which was sort of counseling skills and so on. I went from learning NLP to then I like scientific studies and real results, right? And I was looking online and I was feeling a bit crestfallen because NLP doesn't really yield good online rhetoric, right? So if you Google it, neurolinguistic programming, it is seen as a bit of a pseudoscience. So I didn't really feel like it had a great deal of respect within the mental health industry. And I really wanted to move into working in a really great professional capacity, like in the NHS or really making waves anyway, not just doing something which is surface level, if I can say that with the greatest respect, because people do see results from NLP, but it's not a um, broadly researched with evidence field, right? Whereas cognitive behavioral therapy is. And so I went from NLP into CBT. So I've learned with the Association of Psychologies to do CBT. And I'm at the other end of that now. So I've been using CBT in my coaching practices or my therapy practices. Um, and how I found people doing it and doing it well. And I became friends with them and I worked with them. So there's two gentlemen that I need to give absolute love to, which is Connor and James from the ADHD Adults UK podcast. Those guys helped me out massively. So it's Alex Connor and James Brown. And basically those boys, they helped me out by taking me under their wing, showing me the ropes. I ended up being a speaker on ADHD in multiple podcasts because of their help and their guidance, as well as
Mhm.
my own practices as well. Um, and it happened so quickly. It was within a matter of a couple of years before, I was working closely with the boys on different things, and I started to write courses on ADHD, and I was then teaching in schools for teachers to learn how to manage pupils with ADHD as well. And it just kind of like escalated quite a lot, and I loved it. I wanted to work in mental health because the reason being is my sister's got paranoid schizophrenia, quite severe, and she's been
Mhm.
in psychiatric wards for 20 years. And when I was little, Ted, I used to think that I would have a magic word or a magic sentence that would help my sister. And I just, oh my gosh, especially my teenage years. Oh my God. I used to like read these self-help books. Oh my, like all of these, like read The Secret or like all of these, like follow the words and or like what feel the fear and do it anyway or all of these kind of books. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's fantastic for waffling, right? It's not for fantastic for people with deep psychological issues. It's definitely not for that. But I used to think when I was younger, oh my gosh, all she needs to do is have gratitude every day, and maybe she can write down things that she's got affirmations for, and it will help her. I
Mhm.
really used to feel like that was the way, but yes, that can help with certain things, but not everything. And yes, it can help with certain things, but not deep psychosis. You
No.
can't pray that stuff away. You can't affirm that stuff away, unfortunately. But I just wanted to find out what it was that would help. And I thought, okay, right, I'm going to get into the industry so I can work out how to reverse engineer it. And now, as of recently, my goal has sort of shifted a little bit because when I was that age and I was making that goal and I wanted to work in mental health to help her, it's been as such that now I've witnessed her being institutionalized by being in psychiatric wards for so long. She didn't know how to get out. So now I'm thinking, okay, well, how can I help people that are maybe just put in there and forgotten? Because I met so many ladies going in and visiting my sister that, their family wouldn't visit, or they were being mistreated and no one was standing up for them. And it's
Mhm.
quite heartbreaking. And I'm saying this out loud and I'm trying my best not to cry, but it's heartbreaking to see people be treated like that inside of hospitals. One of the things that I witnessed, there's a whole plethora, like there's a big list. One of the things that I witnessed was a nurse shouting, all you have to do is smile more. What's wrong with you? To somebody that is, visibly very unwell. And if that's something that I'm seeing and they knew I was there, they'd see me. What are they doing when we're not there? It's just one. I'm not going to say the most
Yeah.
horrific stuff I saw, but like that was just one. And yeah, it's something that I really want to achieve. I don't have a prince's trust for this though. So I mean, if anybody has any ideas on how I can take on the NHS from the inside out, please let me know because I am a little bit at a loss and I'd love some help with it. But I know that that's something that I really want to get done for
Yeah.
sure.
It certainly beggars belief when um, every now and again you'll find um, an undercover um, documentary on NHS wards, be
Yeah.
they geriatric or be they on mental hospital wards, and the treatment is just absolutely appalling. Um, the sad thing is there are so many people who put in countless hours, and I imagine it's a very thankless task.
Oh
So
God.
not to take
No.
anything from away from those professionals,
Oh my God,
but
no, no. Yeah, I
uh,
mean, Ted, and just to echo that in a really big way, there's a lot of people that I saw in there that really did work hard.
mm,
I really need to say that at this point because I've given a lot of flack, and I need to sort of also give a lot of praise to those who weren't that way and they were giving up their time for fuck all money. Let's be completely frank about it. Like they're not earning a lot for the things they have to deal with day in and day out, and so it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that those that are working at the absolute core for helping others are the ones that are not very financially rewarded, which
mm.
seems such a ass backwards society, if I'm honest.
Well, if it wasn't that way, then
Honestly.
people would be doing it for the wrong reasons. They'd be doing it for the money. So you can't really win. But professions
Yeah.
like a comparable thing would be the police. You need people who aren't necessarily earning absolute fortunes, but they are acting as though they should be beyond reproach. And that's the same in lots of places. But I imagine it's an incredibly stressful job, and it can be
Hugely.
probably incredibly stressful dealing with challenging behavior, um, and being hit and kicked. Um, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's incredibly difficult, but very, very sad when you're dealing with um, tortured souls on a daily basis.
Well, that's it. So one of the things that I did to try and heal my own soul from not being able to help my sister directly is I went in to do volunteer work at St Pancras psychiatric ward as an advocate.
Mhm.
So I went in to do my you do your training before you go in, and oh my gosh, the training's rigorous, but it had to be because on the ground is also unforgiving. But part of the training was learning how to deal with a complete psychotic break, what you do, how to deal with it, being spit at, punched at, this, that. And the person that was reenacting it did not hold back at all. And luckily that we did have those moments, though. I hadn't experienced it, but some of the other volunteers had, where somebody did go through a complete psychotic break, was acting in that way. And thank God we did have that moment in training where this is it at its worst. What do you do? And it's being able to handle that and knowing that it could happen at any minute, that you're there. It's scary, but it's also one of these things that's the job of volunteers, which is also terrifying. We had to go in and volunteer our time, which I think actually to a certain degree it means that you're really focused on actually doing it.
Yeah.
Because like you said, if it's financially for financial gain, then it's for a different motivation, right?
Mhm.
Mm,
Also, there's a certain get out, isn't there? I suppose if you're a volunteer,
mm,
you don't need to be there the next day. So
mm,
every day you can feel to yourself, okay, this is not my this is not my life.
mm.
If this goes really badly, it's not my life forever. As opposed to being your livelihood and what you rely on.
Mhm.
But thank goodness for volunteers, eh?
Yeah, thank everyone that's a volunteer, yes. Oh
Mhm.
my gosh.
So you talked a lot about ADHD,
Yes.
um, but let's talk about that in terms of what it is and how it affects people.
Sure. Okay, so what it is, neurological disorder. It's not a learning disorder, and it's not something that can be, you know, punched out of you or disciplined out of you or none of that. It just because it might look like bad behavior doesn't mean that you can discipline it out of the person because it's neurological. What is it and how it comes about? Pass through the genes. Typically, the only way that it would be trauma related is incredibly slim statistics on that one. It's almost nigh on impossible. I think one of the doctors that I spoke to likened it to being in a Romanian death camp. That level of trauma may bring on ADHD.
Right. Okay.
His words, not mine. And he was just bringing about the severity. He was like, look, the likelihood of this being trauma related, because there's a chap online talking quite loudly about it being a trauma thing. This guy called Gabor Mate or Gabor Mate. But he's talking really loudly about the fact that it's trauma related, which is bringing about misinformation within the community of people with neurodivergence, which is a little bit scary because if you don't know better, then you'll be like, right, it's because of that, but it's unlikely. It's more normally hereditary. But yeah, I mean, I learned a lot about ADHD, the symptoms, the traits, and everything, mainly through my own journey of getting diagnosed. And then I was like, I want to help other people with this stuff too, because I was been able to help myself. Uh, so I started working with people with ADHD, and I've still got clients now that I work with, mainly professionals that just want to symptom manage. And I absolutely love it because number one, like these are amazing people that have been told that they can't do certain things, but they can. Just got to do it in a different way. And getting to unlock that in someone is spectacular. Getting to go, hey, did you try this? Don't try this like set in stone, normal, typical way. Let's go over here and let's try this other atypical way and see how you get on. And getting to see people thrive in this area and getting to achieve what they want to achieve and actually set out goals and finish them. Oh, it's lovely. Oh, it's lovely. And if anybody is listening and you have got ADHD, check out. I wonder if I can link this. There's something called the Hallowell and Ratey diagnostic criteria. Hallowell and Ratey diagnostic criteria. And to read that is more of a relief for the majority of my clients than to read anything about ADHD anywhere else. It's an ADHD diagnostic criteria by people with ADHD for people with ADHD on the real symptoms and traits that they experience. And it's a real cohesive list. Number one of that is feeling like you haven't achieved enough, no matter how much you have achieved. And that's one of the things that I hear a lot. And it's a great relief to know that it's a typical feeling for us. It's not something because we're shit or because we haven't done enough. It's a typical trait within ADHD.
Right. What other traits would not that you suggest that people self-diagnose, but what other traits are common?
I'm gonna just smash this out because it's so cohesive and it's a great list and I really stick by it and I love it. So I'll read this out and no, it's not about self-diagnosis, but if you relate to it, maybe there's a reason why you do. And it's worth investigating, right? If you want that answer, of course. A sense of underachievement of not meeting a sense of underachievement of not meeting one's goals, regardless of how much one has actually accomplished. Difficulty getting organized, chronic procrastination or trouble getting started, many projects going simultaneously, trouble with follow through, tendency to say what comes to mind without necessarily considering the timing or appropriateness of the remark, a frequent search for high stimulation, an intolerance of boredom, easy distractibility, trouble focusing attention, tendency to tune in or drift out in the middle of a page or conversation. Often creative, intuitive, highly intelligent. That one I think they just threw in there because they were like, we're great, we're going to be there. We'll have that in there. However,
that's just like my tribe, left-handed people.
Well, you guys are a very small tribe, aren't you? Because the
Mm.
majority of people were right-handed in the wars, right? So fantastic to see that you're still with us. So trouble going through established channels, following proper procedure, impatient, low tolerance for frustration, impulsive, either verbally or in action, tendency to worry needlessly, endlessly, tendency to scan the horizon for something to worry about, a sense of insecurity, mood swings, restlessness, tendency towards addictive behavior, chronic problems with self esteem, inaccurate self observation. That's called metacognition in our world. And a family history of either ADD, manic depressive illnesses, or depression, or substance abuse, or other disorders with impulse control. So that list, I urge people to look at that list. There's a DSM diagnostic manual, which you can read as well, which has got the full list of the actual, here's what a psychiatrist would actually diagnose you with as well.
Yeah.
This one is uh, by people with it. Like I said, it's more of a relatable and also easily digestible trait list. It's not something you can diagnose yourself with,
Mhm.
and you can't self-diagnose um, through any official means in order to get medication, but you can say, I relate really hard to this. Maybe I have it, and then start to explore.
Mhm.
More ethical.
Okay. And, I hope you can send me those links later, and I can put them in the description on the video. But,
Will do.
if, uh, if somebody listens to that list, let's say somebody's listening now, and they think,
Mhm.
"Well, that sounds a lot like me," what should they be doing next?
So, officially, if you have a chronic disturbance of at least 15 from what I listed, that definitely means to progress into exploring a diagnosis.
Mhm.
What a chronic disturbance means and what a disorder literally means is it affecting areas in your life, your social life, family life, work life, right? Those areas, if those areas are being affected by those things on that list, then that could be means for a disorder. The disorder can only be a disorder if it's something which is creating problems within those areas of your life on a day-to-day basis. Being forgetful doesn't mean you have ADHD. Being talkative doesn't mean you have ADHD. Being impulsive doesn't mean you have ADHD. You can still be a shiny, sparkly person and not have a disorder. you know, these one of the things that and again, the same doctor I quoted earlier, he also said, just because you're short doesn't mean you have dwarfism. Just because you're tall doesn't mean you have giantism. Just because you're
Mm.
sad doesn't mean you have depression. You have to think about actually how much does it affect you day to day.
Right. Okay.
Mm. So if you're
Mhm.
looking to explore it further, sorry, I should say, is have a look at the. I'll send a link to you for a charity that I really really recommend to deep dive into getting a diagnosis in an easy, quick way because right now the backlog is years with the NHS. It's like 4 to 7 years to get a diagnosis at the moment.
Really?
Mm,
That bad?
it's oh, very much so. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
very underfunded and understaffed in the NHS, aren't we?
Mm.
Um,
Or
so yeah,
overburdened, really.
I mean, yeah, definitely, definitely. And so there is other ways around it. So I recommend the charity. So I'll send that link.
So where does this take you then? What are your plans going forward?
My plans going forward. So, right now, I am working together with my local community to set up a come in and sit down and have a chat. I haven't named it yet, but I've got a venue which I'm going in to visit next week. I put it out there because I just thought, crikey, there's things that I feel, and I'm pretty happy. I've got a pretty good network around me, and I still get lonely moments, and I still get times where I'm like, just feeling a little bit sad, and I feel a little bit low, and I want to talk about it, but I don't want to feel like I'm a burden. And so I thought, right, if I feel like this, it's probably other people that are feeling this, if not more so. So I put it out on a notice board, and I've had a couple of hundred people interested, actually, which blew my mind.
What kind of
So
a notice board was this? Like some
it's
sort
my
of
local community
supercharged
notice
notice board?
board. Yes, I know. It's a Facebook community for my local area, so I put it
Right.
out, and it's one of the top performing posts at this point, which I was like, "What have I done?"
Mm.
Amazing, but it's great because it was obviously needed,
Mhm.
which is fantastic. So I found a venue. I just need to secure it. So I'll keep posting about it. So if people want to learn about it and they live in London and they want to come along and have a chat, I'm just going to set it up. Chairs, open forum. We're going to go around, just talk. How are you feeling? What are you doing? What's going on for you? I might use some therapeutic practices throughout it, but it's more of a just sit and have a chat.
Mhm.
It's, it'll be okay because if you haven't got anybody at home, for example, or people that you feel like you can talk to, I really want to set it up in a way that everyone feels seen and
Mm.
heard. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm working away as an agent as well. Got lots of big projects where I'm a creative director. I'm starting up something with a restaurant in Mayfair. Ongoing work with a couple of different productions as well. Working with the Hurlingham Club, which I'm really, really, really proud of. That's where the Royals go and play tennis. So I love that venue. They love us as well. So we're going to go back there. What are some other little bits? I definitely want to expand upon my big, big, big goal for helping out people who felt institutionalized. So I'd love to do a call out. If anybody's got any ideas, please let me know. Please. There's a guy called Zachar Keltner. He is a great guy to look into. If you want some happiness, right? And if you want a beauty moment in your life, this guy talks about going out and just being in awe. So you get off your laptop, you get off your phone, you go outside and just look at something that creates an awe feeling inside of you. And if you do that just for a couple of seconds or a minute a day, it can change how you feel for the rest of the day, which is really nice. Zachar Keltner is him.
And on that very hippie sounding note, I'm going to thank you very much for coming onto the podcast.
Thanks very much.
But before you go, where can people find out what you're doing and where you're doing it?
And so everything to do with mental health is right in the ADHD,
Mhm.
which is on Instagram and Facebook, and everything to do with shows and lots of fun and lifestyle, Maria.Antonia.Stavrou. And everything to do with my agency and my creative side is at official Sensation Ent on Instagram or Sensation Entertainment Limited on Facebook. I think that will do for now. Thanks, guys.
We talked about a lot, and I'm sure we'll have to do this again. But thanks very much for being on the show.
Ted, it's honestly been amazing to see you again and talk to you again. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thanks.
That conversation with Maria Stavrou was recorded on the 14th of November 2023. If you've got a comment to make or you were affected by any of the issues that we discussed, please do get in the comments. If you've got more to say and you perhaps want to be on the show, get in touch. You can DM me at Ted James Media. Please remember to like, hit subscribe, and also click the little bell so that you're the first to know when a new video comes out. Thank you once again to Maria for being on the show, and I'll see you on the next video. Goodbye.